Michelle. Today I'm going to present to you my innovative project of using storytelling in teaching speaking to primary students to improve their oral competency and also enhance their influence. So first of all, let's have a look at the outline of my presentation. There are eight main points I will include in my presentation. And first of all, I would like to emphasize the value and the beauty of story and storytelling in the human life. There was an Indian proverb once said, tell me a truth and I will believe. Tell me a fact and I will learn. Tell me a story and it will live in my heart forever. A lot of people have agreed that stories and storytellings had long been used as one of the most natural and effective way to pass down human belief, experience, and also knowledge from generations to generations. Realize the power of the story. I decided to carry out the research of using storytelling technique in the classroom, and two sub-questions that shape my inquiries are, first of all, to what extent does storytelling help to improve student speaking, and how does using story in speaking class enhance student confidence and also imitate their positive attitude toward learning. To support my idea, there are some of the theory and also some of the conclusion from other researchers and scholars. They all agree that at least Bristol, Python, 8 and also Gomes, they all agree that storytelling is one of the most effective techniques that generate and benefit student language acquisition process, because stories are the rich resources of authentic material which are familiar and can attract the children interest, help to reduce the stress in the classroom and generate their good attitude, positive attitude toward learning. Why I decided to carry out this research? During the time I have been teaching in Star Language English Center, I have noticed that my students, they prefer writing exercise more than speaking and listening activities because of the test-oriented practice of teaching English in Vietnam, which they just focus a lot on grammar knowledge to pass the examination instead of learn how to use the language. So whenever I apply using story in my lesson, I feel like they are more positive, they are more contributive, and they're more willing to speak and to participate in the activities, such as think about another ending for the story, or role play. What would you do if you were a character in the story? And they are quite excited with those kinds of activities. And I do hope that I can make some changes, and I always have the willing, I always have the passion that my students could use the language, could make the language themselves. They can use the language instead of just learning and passing the examination. So I think the research, it not only just benefit the student, but it can also benefit the other teachers. My research could be considered as a kind of reference which other teacher could take into consideration to use the technique in their own classroom. And I do hope that it can contribute to the field, because as I noticed, there are little researches about this topic, about this field in Vietnamese context. So as I mentioned before, there are some control aspects that affect my research and also affect the teaching and learning habit. Because as I mentioned about bad the bad effect to the student of the task-oriented scheme of the education. Students are very afraid of speaking, expressing themselves, and they are very how to say unconfident when they use the language in speaking, and they are they sometimes they can learn for 8 or 12 years, but they still cannot use the language. And the second thing is that the teacher, Vietnamese teacher, they receive the respectation from the society, from their student and the student parents. So a lot of teachers, they just want to be, like they don't want to change. They want to be in their safe zone. They want to do exactly the thing they have learned and they have been taught by the senior. So hardly did they change the way they have been teaching. So that's the reason why the teaching practice has been the same for such a long time. So I think changing is needed. Changing is needed to have the better result, to bring the benefit for the stakeholders. First of all, my project could bring the benefits to the English Center, because if it has a positive result, it may improve the learning outcome of my student. It could help to attract more students to the English Center. It all benefit the student themselves. Like I mentioned before, they can be familiar with the teaching method. They can apply not only in classroom but at home with their self-study. It can benefit other teachers in the English Center, because they can have more courage to realize their idea, to make some changes in their own teaching practice, and to think something differently to have better results. And it also benefits myself, the researcher. During the time I carrying out this research, I could have my own lesson to improve my teaching and also to improve the quality of my future research. About the data collection and data analysis, because the small scale of my research is just 3 students from 7 to 10, and they are all in a basic user. So the instrument I use to collect the data will be pre-test, post-test, journals, and open-ended interview. Even the process of coding is not easy, but the data will be analog, will be transcribed and coded manually before the file interpreted and presented qualitatively. Because my research is a 10-week action research with a small scale of participants, I decided to approach to qualitatively, because I want to present my idea with more flexible structure and approach to the data more inductively. Last but not least are some ethical problems, and first of all about the consent, because I have been an insider researcher, so it means that I have easier access to the participant, and I can gain their trust easier. But it go along with my responsibility to make sure that they get certain improvement after the course. And there is a big concern about the power relation, which means that the researcher and the student are easier to be affected by the one who have a higher position in the organization. Therefore, I have to get the permission of the center manager before carrying out the research. It could the agreement could have been presented in a kind of form. We have the signature of both the manager and also the researcher. And I also need to now to inform other staff and other teacher of the English Center, and also welcome their participation and their contribution. About privacy and confidentiality of the participant, they and their parents will be informed all the needed information in advance, and before they participate in my research. The researcher, the participant and their parents are, they will sign in a kind of agreement form in Vietnamese to make sure their voluntarity, and the participants have the right to, change their names, hide their names, or stop their participating. And I also have to make sure that the data will be kept in a log cupboard in the English Center, and all the data will be used for the research purpose only. So that's everything I would mention in my project and in my research. So I do hope that it will get the positive result. It can benefit the student, other teachers, also myself. I would like to say thank you to all the authors with their work have been mentioned in my presentation, and thank you for listening.